Welcome to the LHSOA Basketball Update. Joining us today is John Fletcher, a top 28 official from the Alexandria Area Basketball Officials Association and a basketball representative on the LHSOA Executive Committee. So John, what will we be discussing today?
We're going to talk about rotation and working the lead position. When the ball crosses the division line, there's three basic corridors that the court is divided to. Quarter A, which would be strong side. Quarter B, which is lane lines extended, basically down the middle of the court. And quarter C, which will be the weak side. When the ball crosses the division line and it's in quarter A, the lead position should be set up at wide angle, which is about halfway between the lane line extended and the three-point line extended. As the ball goes from quarter A to quarter B, from player 1 to player 2, the lead should move from position A to position B, which will be closed down. Lead will stay in closed down as long as the ball is in quarter B. Once the ball leaves quarter B and goes from quarter B to quarter C, from player number 2 to player number 3, that's going to trigger the lead to rotate from position B to position C, which is closed down to closed down. Once the ball breaks the free throw line extended and goes from player 3 to player 5, lead is going to work from position C to position D, which is closed down to wide angle, and at wide angle, they will there mirror the ball.
What are we seeing here, John?
This was a great example of good positioning at wide angle. Lead is about halfway between the free throw lane line extended and the three-point line extended.
So what about this one?
This is another good example. Lead is good and deep. He's about 6 feet off the end line, about halfway between the lane line extended and the three-point line extended.
Here it looks like he's at close down.
The next couple of slides are going to be some positioning of close down. Close down is basically one step outside the paint towards the three-point line on the baseline. This is another good position. The ball is in the middle of the floor. Lead is at close down. He's in great position to go either way depending on which way the ball is passed. He can either rotate or back out and go to wide angle if it goes to strong side.
So John, how exactly do we know, and what are some tips and tricks or do's and don'ts of when we should rotate at lead?
When you rotate at lead is dictated by location of the ball. We want to stay ball side as often as possible. There's some pretty strong statistics that tell us that our call accuracy is better when lead and trail are on the same side of the ball.
So we're going to rotate close down to close down. Do you have an example of that?
This next video is going to be a good example of rotating from close down to close down. This is a good rotation. Right now, lead is at close down. He recognizes the post play. He gets across the lane to the opposite close down spot and is able to referee the play. And it also allows his partners to be put in better position to referee the other players on the floor.
Okay, that makes sense. But when exactly do we want to stop a rotation or backtrack, and what constitutes when the rotation is complete?
Rotation is not complete until the lead gets to the opposite lane line. Here's a great example of that. Lead is going to go almost to the opposite lane line while the ball's being shot. He recognizes the shot, he stops, and he backs out. Rotation is not complete until you get to the opposite lane line.
Alrighty, but most of the time it's fine to walk across the paint, but can we run or have an accelerated pace when needed?
It's perfectly acceptable to walk across the paint, and which is what we do most of the time. But there's an occasion where we got to get in a hurry. We got to get to the spot quickly. So it's perfectly acceptable to use an accelerated pace, as you can see here in this example.
And then we want to referee the post play and players in the lane during a rotation. Why is that so important, John?
Our first job is obviously to referee. And we don't want to forget that those people that are in the paint are in Lead's primary coverage area. During rotation, Lead needs to keep his eyes fixed on the paint and referee the post players and the players in the lane during the rotation.
So we've gone over a few of the do's. Now let's look at a few of the don'ts and things that can get us in trouble by rotating at the wrong times at Leads. For example, rotating during a shot. John, why don't we want to rotate during a shot?
The primary reason we don't want to rotate during a shot is that it changes the center and the trail officials' primary coverage areas. It'll alter what they're looking at in rebounds. And this is a great example. As the ball is being shot, it changes the rebounding coverage, and it puts our partners at a disadvantage. So don't rotate during a shot.
Alrighty. And then rotating during a drive, is that much of the same principle?
It's a very similar concept that rotation during a drive changes our partners, primarily trail and centers, coverage areas, and we end up losing our continuity of who's got what player and who's got what primary.
So what's happening here?
As you can see, the ball's going to be swung from one side of the floor to the other, and there's a drive, and Lead continues on. Lead should just stop and back out, and it allows everybody to maintain their primary coverage area. This is another really good example, and as you can see, Lead's trying to come across during the drive, and it changes his angles on the refereeing the two players during the drive, and he's unable to referee this play efficiently.
Okay, so if the rotation starts, what's our order of rotation? Who moves when and where?
The sequence of rotation is Lead crosses the paint. The next person should be the trail, who should close down to C. And the last person to leave is the center official to back out. As you can see in this clip that was just played, as Lead's moving, the center is backing out, trying to get to the trail position, and then there's a crash in the paint. And because our primary coverage areas have changed, we're unsure about whose play this is supposed to be, and we have a crash and no whistle.
So is this where we discussed that it's okay to have two C's, but that we really should hardly ever have two T's?
Yes, that's a good example. We want two C's, but rarely to never do we want two T's.
So that play that we looked at a little bit earlier, where we had the backtrack, is that a good example of how it should work?
This is a great example of not only Lead doing good work, coming almost across, but not all the way to the lane line, backing out, but also you can see that C maintains his position here and referees this play, and the sequencing here was not altered because of the rotation during a shot.
So what's going on in this play?
This is just another good example of Lead's at close down. He starts to rotate. A drive is imminent. He's taking it to the basket, and he recognizes that. He stops and backs out, allows the center and trail official to maintain their primary coverage areas.
Alrighty, and then we're talking about we should never rotate from wide angle to wide angle. Why is that?
Well, there's a couple of reasons why you want to rotate from wide angle to wide angle. One is it's too far to go. You're going all the way across the paint to 6 feet out on either side of the lane. It's just too far, and most people can't get there. So what happens is we don't rotate, which decreases our call accuracy because we don't have trail and Lead on the same side of the floor.
So why is this rotation so good?
This is a really good rotation. As you can see, Lead comes across, has a little acceleration to his pace. There's a skip pass and a drive. He starts to rotate again because the ball went opposite, but he recognizes the drive, stops, and comes back. This is really good work by the Lead official.
Okay, but sometimes doesn't either trail or C, they're moving in order to cover a particular play. Does that mean that they're initiating the rotation? I thought only Lead could initiate a rotation.
C and T can facilitate a rotation, but only the Lead initiates the rotation. There's going to be an occasion where there's going to be ball pressure high on center side of the floor that center has to go up and referee. And when he recognizes that, he needs to go up and referee the play. Lead also needs to recognize that, and he can rotate. Here it is. C is recognizing that there's ball pressure. He's moving up. C, the lead official, recognizes that C went up, moves across the lane, and rotates. If lead does not go across the lane and complete the rotation, then C will have to move back to his original location. T and C facilitate the rotation, but only the lead initiates the rotation.
Thank you so much, John, for joining us, and thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules and for all you do officiating sports, specifically basketball, here in Louisiana. Best of luck the rest of the season as we enter the playoffs.